We'll now call the Committee on the Environment, Climate, and Legacy to order. Today is Tuesday, February 14th, 2023. It's 3:05 at the moment. On our agenda here today, we'll have budget overview from the DNR, and then we'll hear two bills, Senate File 573 and Senate File 442. Also, members, I found an M&M in my folder, and I'm sure all of you does too. Happy Valentine to all of you. If there's a heart in there, so feel free to at your leisure, while you're listening to our board, engaging testimony, feel free to nibble on them if you like. So I will call the Department of Natural Resource to the desk. Commissioner Sarah Stroman, Bob Meyer, and DNR Assistant Commissioner, and Mary Robinson, DRC FO. And Commissioner, when you're ready, just introduce yourself for the record, and you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I'm Sarah Stroman, Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources. With me this afternoon are Assistant Commissioner Bob Meyer and Chief Financial Officer Mary Robinson. Those are the two folks with me at the table here. We do also have our division directors in the audience here as well, in case there are questions that relate to details of division budgets. And Mary is just going to get our slides up. Okay, great. Well, let me first of all say that we are really excited to be here in your committee this afternoon to talk about the governor's budget for fiscal years 24 and 25. The governor's One Minnesota budget includes $287.4 million of investments in over this biennium, and these investments will help us connect people to the outdoors, position Minnesota as a leader in mitigating and adapting to climate change, and help us manage natural resources proactively rather than reactively, and address the agency's operational needs. These recommendations include a mix of one-time investments, increases in annual investments, as well as increases in fees that will help us benefit Minnesota's environment and economy and contribute to our high quality of life throughout the state. So just to give you a quick idea of what I'm going to cover today in the overview, I'm going to talk a little bit about the approach to this budget request and the governor's budget recommendation. We'll then give an overview of the recommendations in that budget for the Department of Natural Resources. We're going to talk about each of the change items and highlights of the budget investments by our strategic priorities, and then hopefully get lots of questions and some discussion with all of you. So the first thing I want to do, just to give a little bit of context, is to talk about the approach we took in developing our budget request to the governor and part of what's reflected in this recommendation. One of the things that we've worked to do over the past number of years is really deepen and expand our strategic planning. And we've worked to make sure that this governor's budget recommendation reflects our strategic priorities in terms of the work that we do, and that the budget is informed by long-term thinking in addition to the parameters of a biennial budget. For example, some of you may be familiar with our 10-year capital asset needs report. This is not primarily under consideration by this committee. It's in front of the Capital Investment Committee, but it's a way we look long-term at a 10-year time frame at the needs for our capital assets that we manage on behalf of Minnesota. More recently, we have just produced our For the Outdoors initiative, and this is a collaborative process that we've engaged in over the past couple of years with Minnesotans. It's intended to be a transformational effort to look at the future of conservation and outdoor recreation funding by what Minnesotans value and the experiences they value, and then how we can provide those things. And so the For the Outdoors report, which I'll encourage you to take a look at, or we can talk more about, makes 4 recommendations that we will undertake over the next 4 years that include optimizing our existing funds, exploring the use and application of fees, as well as examining new sources of stable and equitable funding for the outdoors and conservation. I want to just take a little bit of an overview then, given that context of the DNR's budget. And I think it's just important to ground us in the budget before we go into the specific requests. The DNR's budget, as you'll see for a biennium, is about $1.3 billion. That's a sizable budget, but within that, there's actually very little flexibility in how the agency spends. Most of it is directed and sourced through dedicated funds. So on this chart in the upper right, you'll see the general fund there in blue. About 1/4, 25% of the DNR's budget comes from general fund. Of that, almost half of that, 47%, is passed through to other entities, or it's designated to firefighting activities. So when I say it's passed through to other entities, that includes our payments to tribal nations in accordance with treaties, it's payments to counties for payment in lieu of taxes, and then again, much of that is for firefighting activities across the state. So only about half of that 25% is funding DNR programs across the department, and you'll see which types of programs when we dive into the division budgets. On the upper left, you'll see a combination of the legacy funds, the outdoor heritage, the clean water, parks and trails, as well as the environmental and natural resource trust funds. Together, these funds comprise about 23% of our budget, so almost equal to the general fund portion of our budget are funds coming out of the constitutionally, voter-approved, constitutionally dedicated funds that Minnesota has generated. And by the Constitution, those funds must be supplemental to other traditional source of funding, and so therefore they do not support operations of the agency. They support on-the-ground supplemental work. You'll also see some of the other DNR's major funds, Game and Fish Fund, Natural Resources Fund, and to, of course, further complicate, each of those funds are made up of multiple funding sources. And so we're not going to go through each of those. Ms. Robinson would be happy to offer more details if anybody has questions. But I think just by way of quick example, if you look at the Game and Fish Fund, which is 19% of our overall budget, about 56% of the revenue into the Game and Fish Fund comes from hunting and fishing licenses. Federal dollars from the Pittman-Robertson and Dingell-Johnson excise tax on hunting and fishing equipment are also a significant source of funding into that fund. If you can go to the next slide. What I want to do briefly is just provide an overview of each of the divisions in the budget. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these slides. We had a brief opportunity to talk about what each division does when we did the overview, but what I would ask that you focus on really is the pie chart that shows the funding sources for each division, so you get a sense of how they're funded. And then again, if there are more specific questions, our division directors can answer those. But what you'll notice is within each of our divisions, there are a number of sources that help us accomplish the work that that division does. So in the case of the Parks and Trails division, it's general fund, the state park account, and the state parks lottery and lieu account, as well as the natural resource fund, are the most significant funds that come together, and then along with the Parks and Trails legacy fund. In our Fish and Wildlife division, you'll see a little bit different mix here. The vast majority of the funding for this division comes from the Game and Fish Fund, again, which is largely made up of hunting and fishing license dollars as well as federal dollars. And what you'll notice here, different than the Parks and Trails division, is only about 2% of this division is funded through general fund, and all of that is made up of a specific appropriation for CWD surveillance and monitoring. So the only general fund support the Fish and Wildlife division realizes to manage our fish and wildlife is for chronic wasting disease, and that's a relatively recent funding. want to go on to the next one, our forestry division. This one, in a little bit of contrast, you will see 60% of the division's budget is made up of general fund, and that is largely because it includes our open appropriation for fire suppression. But the general fund, along with the forest management investment account and heritage enhancement, also are important for funding forest management in the state. Ecological and water resources probably has one of the most diverse mixes of funding. This is probably the most colorful one, and so while the funding base is broad, it's also complex in how you match each one of those funding sources that has a unique purpose to the programs under this. And so this would be, there are specific dollars for aquatic invasive species and water protection work, and fees from our water permitting as well. Go on to enforcement. Here, enforcement receives funding from 7 accounts within the Natural Resources Fund. Those include the motorized vehicle accounts, such as ATV and snowmobile. There's about 18% of general fund used by this division, and about $3 million of that is restricted to AIS-related enforcement. And then lands and minerals is the next one. This is our smallest division. And you can see here, too, the majority of funding to this division is through dedicated funding. General fund only making up about 12% of the total budget. And then finally, operations support. This is the part of the agency that includes functions such as our communications, human resources, legal, finance and budget, our diversity, equity and inclusion, fleet, building services, as well as our leadership costs, all of those things that support the other 6 programmatic divisions. Most of these fees or most of these costs are covered by internal billings within the agencies, so each of the divisions contribute to make up the budget for our operations support. So I want to turn, since I know we have a limited time here today, I want to turn to the budget priorities and the budget proposal itself. And we will walk through those budget initiatives by our strategic priority, and there are 4 of those: connecting people to the outdoors, mitigating and adapting to climate change, managing natural resources proactively, and addressing our operational needs. And within each of these categories, there is a suite of proposals that have been developed strategically to work together to ensure the best opportunity to support outdoor recreation, conservation, and science-based natural resource management now and into the future in Minnesota. So how the dollars break out by category is on this slide here. You'll see the largest category is in the connecting people to the outdoors. Again, the total request is just over $287 million. And I will note this does not include our legacy fund proposals or the governor's capital request. This is just general fund, game and fish fund, natural resources fund. It is also a mix, as I said before, of one-time transformational investments, and we'll highlight those, particularly those under our Get Out More. That's why you see the connecting people to the outdoors category is so large. And it is, those one-time investments are enhanced by ongoing funding for programs and services, both through either general fund or other fund ongoing investments or from increases in fees. So we'll start with the connect people to the outdoors category. And as I know you have all heard me say, connecting people to the outdoors in meaningful ways is a really important part of what the DNR does. It's important to our human health. It's important to our states and communities' prosperity and quality of life. And it builds stewardship for our special places and our shared resources. There's a number of elements to this budget area. I want to highlight the Get Out More, and I'll talk about that in a little bit more here. But there's also $6.6 million for state park operations, $2 million for state trail maintenance, $800,000 to expand public access through the walk-in access program, dollars for improving Minnesota's water recreation experiences, and then $2 million for the popular No Child Left Inside grant program. And I think what I hope you'll see again in each of these categories is these proposals are designed to be a suite. So while the Get Out More focuses on more of those one-time transformational modernization efforts, then the improving visitor services and addressing trail maintenance, those are the things that provide that ongoing maintenance, programming, and services that allow Minnesotans to continue to enjoy. We can go to the next slide. We'll just dig in a little bit more to the Get Out More proposal. And this really is an exciting, I think, transformational budget proposal that helps ensure that Minnesotans of all abilities and interests and experiences can enjoy a high-quality outdoor recreation experience in whatever way they choose. And so this slide presents just the overview of the investments proposed in our Get Out More initiative. The yellow column showing the general fund investments that the governor has proposed, and the green column showing the capital investments that the governor has proposed, and then the total. And so I know this committee is more focused on the general fund than the capital, but I think we felt it was important for you to see how we are using those different funding sources to work together to provide not only the infrastructure that supports our outdoor experiences, but also the programming and those things that are not bondable that make that experience what it is for Minnesotans. And I won't go into more of that detail now. I think we'll switch to the next slide. So I do want to note that along with the investments from the general fund and bonding, we are proposing some fee increases as well. And those were on the slide they were indicated with an asterisk which investments included fee increases. So these fee increases, the fees that are included in this proposal, and these are the three that are related to connecting people to the outdoors, haven't been changed in a number of years. And in the case of the watercraft fees, actually have not been raised since 2006. And so adjustments are needed periodically in order to allow us to continue to deliver those resource protections, the experiences, and services. So in the parks, there's a $3.3 million investment that is proposed in our state park system that is supported then by an increase in the park permit fees. And so just to understand how the one-time investments work with this ongoing funding, the one-time investments from the Get Out More and the general fund and the bonding are proposed to be used to modernize campgrounds, to update and replace drinking water systems and wastewater systems in our campsites. And the fee revenue then improves our operations and maintenance within those parks with a focus on the on-the-ground services to visitors. Again, that $3.3 million investment is raised by a $3 increase on the daily pass to parks and a $10 increase on the annual pass to parks. We're proposing a $1.2 million investment in fishing through the angling license. This is the general proposal is to raise the resident fishing licenses by about 20%, non-resident licenses by about 30%. That's $5 per license for a resident license. So less than the cost of one average fishing lure, you get access to our incredible fishing opportunities in Minnesota. So again here, while the one-time funds are proposed to be used to modernize our hatcheries, the places that grow the fish, and the places that people fish, like shore fishing opportunities, pier fishing opportunities, boat accesses, the ongoing revenue generated by the fee increase would actually pay for the management of those fisheries resources, the staff, our fisheries expertise to collect data, analyze that data, and make management decisions that benefit fish populations. And then finally, we have a $6.5 million investment proposed in our public water access sites through an increase in the watercraft registration fees. And if folks are interested, we can walk through that. The actual fee increases, the fees that people pay are paid once every 3 years. They vary depending on the size of your watercraft. So just for one example, if you have a boat that is less than 17 feet, you would pay an $18 increase, and again, that's over 3 years. If your watercraft is between 17 and 19 feet, you would pay $32 more, again, over those 3 years. Similar to the other two, the one-time investments in this case are proposed to be used to actually modernize those boat access sites and provide that infrastructure, while the watercraft fee ongoing revenue provides the operations of those sites. So to make sure the docks are put in and taken out seasonally, to make sure that the gravel at the ramp is in good repair, to make sure portable toilets are in place, those kinds of things that we have to do on an ongoing basis where one-time funds wouldn't address them. We'll move on to our mitigate and adapt to climate change category. This suite of proposals is really about maximizing the investment that Minnesota already has in public lands to enhance the climate or carbon storage benefits. And so there are proposals to enhance grasslands and restore wetlands, to enhance our forest lands, both public and private, and to also address peatlands and the carbon storage potential of our peatlands. These proposals are consistent with the state's climate action framework, which specifically recommends to accelerate forest, grassland, and wetland restoration, to store more carbon, to restore and expand habitat complexes and corridors, and expand climate resilient agriculture and forestry. The next category is manage natural resources proactively. You will see a long list of proposals here. And this, again, is really about trying to address issues, managing issues, as I like to say, through the windshield rather than the rearview mirror, getting in front of issues rather than only being in a response mode. And so you can see a number of these are addressing pretty pressing issues, whether it's our water resources and the increasing demands for those public water uses, and DNR needing to be available to provide technical and planning assistance to those who would want to use our waters, proactively managing chronic wasting disease through surveillance, monitoring, and action, or preventing and slowing the spread of aquatic invasive species. There are a number of there are three fee increases associated with the proposals where you saw the asterisks in this budget category. The first one relates to our utility licenses, and here we are proposing to generate $800,000 of investment increase annually through a restructuring of our utility license system. So right now, most actually utility license applications are exempt from paying any application fee, and that's by statute. This proposal would change that to require all utility license permit seekers to pay that application fee, and then would implement an additional fee of $500 for every additional crossing included in a single application beyond a baseline of 2 crossings. So if you think about very large utility projects that are crossing state lands and crossing public waters in multiple places, right now there is one base application fee, no matter how many crossings our staff have to evaluate. And so what this does is sort of right-size the amount of work with the amount of the permit fee so that we can generate some of the revenue needed to do the work. And that means it will further help us actually keep up with the cost and pace of permitting. We are proposing to invest $450,000 annually in our water management programs by increasing the water use and public water fees. So this includes both increasing the summer water use fees between May and September. These are typically charged on non-essential water users such as golf courses and landscaping, where during those summer months they are using excess water. And so in order to help promote conservation, we're proposing to increase the surcharge on those. And then it's also fees on our public water permitting to achieve a better balance between the fee revenue that supports permitting and the general fund support for these activities. And then last but not least, we are proposing to generate $1.1 million of investment annually for aquatic invasive species management and prevention by increasing the AIS surcharge on boat registrations from its current $10.60 to $20. And similar to the boat registration fee itself, this fee is paid every 3 years, same time as your boat registration, and is important to us keeping up on aquatic invasive species management. Specifically, this investment would allow us to increase our capacity at the department as well as provide more pass-through grants to local units of governments, tribal governments, and lake association partners. And then lastly, we have our category of addressing operational needs. Within this category, we have one deficiency request. That is for our drill core library in Hibbing. There is an immediate safety issue with the racking that holds those heavy core samples. And because of that safety issue, the library is actually closed. By statute, it is required to be open, but we cannot allow our staff or the public in there safely right now. So we have that deficiency request in here at $1 million to address the racking. And then we also have the largest portion of this request is our agency operating adjustment. This funding covers specifically employee compensation increases that we are currently and expect to incur over the next biennium, IT cost increases, fleet and gasoline cost increases, the rising costs of facility maintenance, the rising cost of utilities, and then increases to the contracts for core services such as trash removal, recycling, and septic pumping. This category also includes funding to adapt and modernize DNR services and ensure cybersecurity needs are met for state and customer safety, as well as our efficient business operations. These IT investments really lay the foundation for enhancing customer experience for customers who want to deal with us in an online platform and really create that modern experience for Minnesotans doing business with the DNR. And then lastly, you'll see an item for enforcement public safety preparedness. That is to ensure that if our officers continue to be called for general public safety duty, that they have the training and equipment necessary to do that beyond their normal duties and functions. Can we go to the last slide, which I think is just the conclusion. So, Mr. Chair, members, we know that this presentation was a very brief overview of what is a large budget and I think a large and exciting budget request. We hope it was useful in giving you a sense of what we're proposing and why we're proposing it. We do look forward to working with you in this committee throughout the session to provide those investments that are going to be meaningful to modernizing the experiences that Minnesotans have in our outdoors. So with that, we'd be happy to take any questions or comments.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Any question from members? Senator Green?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for being here. We'll maybe work a little backwards, seeing as how we're on the last slide. Touching on the fees for the utility crossings, and I might have missed it because it went by kind of fast, but you're increasing the cost of a crossing by $500. What is the current cost of a utility crossing?
Commissioner?
Mr. Chair, I'm going to have Ms. Robinson take that question.
Ms. Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Thank you for the question. So currently, there are two changes underneath this utility license fee increase. One piece is that the majority of utility license applications are exempt from paying any application fee. So I would say it's around 75% of utility applications pay no application fee at present. So part of what this would do is would end those exemptions and apply an application fee to all the utility licenses that are currently exempt of $1,000. That's not as high as the current application fees for those who are not exempt, but they would have to pay something towards the application. The second piece is the piece you're talking about of the per crossing fee. So currently the application is the only application fee is the only cost associated with that application. Even if an application includes multiple crossings, the application fee is the same. What this would do is say an application may have 2 crossings in it, and then above that base, every additional crossing, there's a $500 fee. And the reason for that is because each crossing within an application has to be assessed individually. It's a different water crossing or a different land crossing. And so there is additional work associated with each additional crossing within an application. So this is just reflecting that, so that if there are, say, 10 or even 15 crossings within an application, there's some increment of a fee applied to those crossings.
Follow-up, Senator Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so just to be clear, though, the utilities, when they're done, they have to put everything back the way it was. So there is, the impact is not great on the land because it's put back where it was. And so just so folks know that these utility crossings, all these costs are passed back down to the ratepayers of these utilities. And I think that over the years, one of the reasons for there being an exemption for the crossings was many years of battling for the excessive costs that were being charged for these fees and these crossings. So I'd be really interested in getting the breakdown of that when you get a chance. The other thing then is the surcharge on the boats going up to $20. With the fee increase that you're proposing of an additional $18, you're looking at $40 for a boat that's under 18 feet, and then that would be, what, $52 increase? So what would the total be on that?
Commissioner or
Mr. Chairman.
Deputy Meyer.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Green, the total cost depends, as we talked about, on the size of your boat. That is for a 3-year registration. So right now, for example, on a 18-foot boat, 17 and 19-foot boat, you're only paying $45 for a registration, plus that $10 AIS surcharge for $55. Most places you go to launch a boat, you pay $10, $15, $20 a day. So this is a great investment. Our facilities are in dire need of repair. So these funds are needed to enhance the system that we have to date. So it may be a small increase, but it still is a great value.
Senator Green.
Mr. Chair, a small increase, but actually if you add them together, you're essentially doubling on some of these boats, are you not? So, because you never did give me a final price on it, you said that less than 18 feet was $18 increase and over was a $32 increase that must be on average. So unless I heard you wrong, so if you add those together, that's quite an increase.
Assistant Commissioner Meyer.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Green, the increase does it be about a $37 increase with the AIS surcharge, but those AIS fees, that surcharge is what pays for all of our activities. It also provides funding for local lakeshore associations to deal with aquatic invasive species and will allow us to keep the latest technology out at these boat accesses to prevent or try to slow the spread of aquatic invasive species.
Just a comment, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Senator Green.
So then I'm glad to hear that, and then I suppose that we won't see any more requests for AIS funding in all the other categories?
Senator Green, is that a comment or question?
Yes.
You're done with that? You're done? Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I could just
Commissioner.
add to this fee in particular, the watercraft registration fee has not been raised since 2006. And so part of what we've did is looked at the rate of inflation of what we're paying on the cost to maintain those water accesses that, as Assistant Commissioner Meyer said, people can use our public water accesses free of charge. If you go to a resort, you're paying, $10, $20 or more dollars to launch. And so really the increase here is reflected because we've brought this proposal several times in front of the legislature and they haven't been raised, and we appreciate that, but there is a real cost to providing this amenity, and with having no raise since 2006, this is just the reality of where we're at to provide that, and we still believe it's a good value to provide that opportunity and protect the resources that people are trying to enjoy in the first place.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good to know. Any question for the DNR budget overview? Okay, well, you guys did pretty well. Very, very good. So thank you, Assistant Commissioner Bob Meyer and Commissioner Stroman and Ms. Robinson for your presentation. I also want to note that we have quorum, and also we have a special guest in our midst, in our committee today as well. Former Senator Bob Lasar, the founder of Lasar Sam, and it's one of the bills that we'll be hearing here today, and so I'm glad that Bob Lasar is here with us, a legend to this committee, and he will listen to the two bills coming up, including LCCMR. So I will turn the gavel to Vice Chair McEwen, and I go over to present Senate File 573. Give me a minute here to be on the other side of the table. Members, thank you, Madam Chair. Before I say the introduction of this bill, I'd like to make 2 points. You know, I have good news and not so bad news. And the good news is that I'm now the author of Senate File 573, being that I'm also appointed to the Lasar Sam committee. So that's a good news. The not so bad news that the shift just happened over since yesterday. So, you know, I'm not quite versed. I know the subject, but not quite versed. So I'm glad that we have an expert next to me here. The other part I want to make note of it and make known is that I want to thank Bob Lasar, like I said, the legend of this committee, for giving me a photo of it, his autograph. It's Sam, Lasar Sam together here. Mm-hmm. And so thank you very much for this. And now we'll carry on your legacy. So here for the introduction of Senate File 573. In 2008, the citizens of Minnesota passed the Clean Water, Land, and Legacy Constitution Amendment that provides a new 1/8 of 1% sales tax. 1/3 of that tax go to the Outdoor Heritage Fund and is constitutionally dedicated to protect, restore, and enhance habitat for fish, game, and wildlife. The bill before us, Senate File 573, is the Lasar Sam Outdoor Heritage Council funding recommendation for those constitutionally dedicated outdoor heritage funds. As many of you know, Minnesota woods, waters, and grassland hold a special place for me and my family. Like much of Minnesota citizens, we enjoy the state's natural resource by hunting, fishing, canoeing, and much more. Minnesota wildlife and wild places hold a special place in my heart. Along with Senator Dibble, Senator Dibble, and Sharon Lane. I am very proud today to be an author of this bill that invests approximately $167 million of outdoor heritage fund monies into Minnesota natural resource to protect, restore, and enhance habitat for fish and game and wildlife. So I have testified here to present and also answer any question, but I have an author amendment to get the bill in the shape that I'd like to see us moving forward. And Madam Chair, member, is Amendment A1.
Thank you, Senator Herr. Senator Herr, are you moving the A1 amendment then to your Senate file?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senators Herr. Senator Herr, members, moves the A1 amendment to Senate File 573. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The amendment passes.
Thank you. And as an author amendment, it's not necessary for me to explain, but for transparency, why I should just say that the amendment is for technical fix to extend two previous outdoor heritage fund appropriation to reflect action taken at the last meeting of the council. And if members has any question later, you can also ask Mr. Mark Johnson here as well. So.
Yes, Senator.
I don't have the A1 amendment. I've got an A4 amendment. So is there one out there?
Yes, thank you for that question, Senator. We'll make sure that you have one. I am being told that they are in the packets. Did you double check that you have it? We'll just pause for a minute. We'll make sure everybody has it. To A1. Senator Houschild, are you all set? Okay. Okay. All right. It looks like everybody has what they need then. And we're ready to hear some testimony on the Senate File 573 as amended.
Madam Chair, for the record, my name is Mark Johnson. I'm the Executive Director of the Lessard Sam's Outdoor Heritage Council. I'll walk you through a couple of handouts here and then some of the bill itself, and I'll hand it over to Mr. Pavelko, who will do some more walkthrough with you. First of all, members, in your packets, I should really say thank you for having us here to testify on this. We look forward to it every year. And for me, this is my 8th year, I think it is, or 9th year, something like that. So it's an enjoyable experience every year and educational for sure. First of all, in your packets, I want to draw your attention to this single page on the front. It says Outdoor Heritage Fund, and it's both sides. We'll go through that very quickly with you because I just wanted to, there's new faces here. I wanted to give you a quick overview of what this fund is about and who the council is that's bringing you these recommendations. As you heard Chair Herr mention, the Clean Water Land and Legacy Act was passed in 2018, and that provided 3/8 of 1% new sales tax, and 1/3 of those new sales tax dollars go into the Outdoor Heritage Fund. So that's this pot of dollars. Another third Clean Water Fund, and then the last third is split between Parks and Trails and Arts and Cultural Heritage. So with this, with that passage of the constitutional amendment also came statute that said you will have a bipartisan or nonpartisan group of legislators and citizens who will make recommendations to the legislature each year on expenditures or appropriations from the Outdoor Heritage Fund, pardon me. And that's what this council is. It's 12 members, 8 are citizens, 2 are appointed by the House, 2 by the Senate, and 4 by the governor. And then there are 4 legislators, 2 from the Senate, 1 from each party, and 2 from the House, 1 from each party. And this nonpartisan group gets together multiple times each year, puts out a call for funding requests for funds or for projects for habitat use from the Outdoor Heritage Fund. Then they vet those, come up with recommendations on which of these are good projects, what should they be funded at, or what level should they be funded, if funded at all. And then those recommendations come forward to you in the form of this bill on an annual basis. And the council does it annually, mostly so they can get the dollars in the ground a little bit faster. The other thing I should mention is by constitution and by law, these funds are dedicated to protect, enhance, and restore habitat for fish, game, and wildlife. So that's the charge that the council is always looking at with these appropriations, or with these recommendations, I should say. On this page, on the front side, I kind of encapsulated for you already. On the back, it actually gives you a few highlights to date. From this fund, there have been $1.5 billion approximately that have been appropriated from the Outdoor Heritage Fund. That has been appropriated to about 481 projects, and those are habitat projects. So it's not including administrative stuff. It's the actual habitat projects. About half of those are finalized and done. The work has already been done. The dollars spent, paperwork's in, everything's transparent. The other half are in stages from just starting to just ready to close. So it takes a while for these dollars to hit the ground, but it's an ongoing process and very active. To date, as of when we put this together, through fiscal year 2000, through last fiscal year, I should say, or actually I think this was January we put it together, the $258 million had already been realized in leverage or match funds to these appropriations that have finished, that have already been closed. So the ones that are not closed, we haven't measured those match funds. They won't be captured until we're done. So we're looking at lots more by the time those are finished. About $109 million has been allocated to the small grants program, which again was a statutory requirement that there be a CPL or Conservation Partner Legacy program that would then provide these dollars to local interests, regional interests, so that people in your communities can get involved in conservation and groups in your communities. About $16 million in leverage has been provided just through that program as of that date. Overall, about 1.3 million acres of habitat has been restored, enhanced, or protected. In the small grants portion alone, those 109, actually less than 109 million had been given out at this point, but about 900 grants, a little more than that, have gone out in the small grants, and that alone has provided another 339,000 acres of protection, enhancement, and restoration of habitat. I'm going to call as long as we're talking about CPL or Conservation Partner Legacy, there's this one-pager with some pictures on the back for you, and I'll let you read the figures, the bullets on the front yourself, and by the way, I think the second bullet, the numbers don't jive with the one I just gave you, and it's simply a matter of time between when we got these figures and that. Things change quite rapidly. The dots on the map on the front of this page are projects, strictly the small grant projects that are across the state. And the vast majority of those are enhancement and restoration. So I believe every county, but I think three have received Conservation Partner Legacy funds. And and I can't name those three off for you right away. I think one of them might be Pennington, but I can't remember the others. The backside of the grant is just some pictures, or the page are just some pictures, and I think you've got captions on those pictures on your copy that tell you kind of what those are, what's happening in those. And lastly, if you could, I would call your attention to this one, this foldable brochure. And that is really the bill overview or the bill summary. So I will take you through the first and the last page of that, and then I'll hand it to Mr. Pavelko to take you through the middle and all the ditty in there. There's a lot of it. First of all, from the highlights from this, you already heard that it's about $167 million appropriations bill, recommendations bill. There are 48 programs that will be funded through this bill. About $39.5 million of this appropriation is designated for projects that have urban or metro designation to them, and the rest is statewide. 121,000 acres, or a little more than that, are estimated to be restored, enhanced, or protected just through these appropriations. About almost 40 miles of shoreline will be restored, protected, or enhanced, and as you can see, about $32 million in other funds will will be realized in leverage or are planned for being realized in leverage or match through this appropriation in these projects. 32 different organizations are recipients of this. There are others that are involved, but the direct recipients are 32. And those are the one federal agency, that's the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, I believe, and that's in combination with Ducks Unlimited and Pheasants Forever, helping them get the work done, do the work. 2 state agencies, Bowser and DNR, 1 tribal government unit, 8 local units of government, and 20 nonprofits or non-government organizations. There's also a second tribal government involved. They are not a direct recipient, but they are a partner in one of the other projects. And I'm probably missing other unique recipients or partners as well, or unique partners, I should say, as well. About 94% of the appropriations are repeat phases. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. Mr. Pavelko will also bring that up. Repeat phases doesn't mean that it's the same work being done again. To the contrary, it's different work, but it's probably the same recipient and in the same geographic area. So why try to change the name is kind of the deal. But the main thing is it's good work. The council has vetted it, and they're recommending appropriation. The activities you can see listed there, everything from native prairie protection and restoration to wetlands to shallow lake enhancements, forest reforestation, et cetera. There's just a whole cadre of things that happen. On the back page, you'll see a whole bunch of names. This actually is a summary of the bill. It corresponds directly to the listings within the bill. So the very top section is subdivision 2A, the prairies section of the bill. And there are 9 projects. Those are the first 9 projects in the bill, totaling about $31 million. You can see who those are, what their designation, what their subdivision is by the A, B, C, or D at the front of their title, who's receiving the funds and what the funds are. The second is the forests region, or subdivision 3. There are 4 projects there, totaling $6.3 million or $6.4 million. Then we have wetlands in subdivision 4, and that is 9 projects for another $32.5 million. So as utilize this kind of as a key, it does come in handy if you're looking for something particular in the bill. It will give you an idea where to go. And the largest area is subdivision is habitats, and that's because it includes many different activities, and different areas of the state potentially. But that's 23 projects for $95 million of this appropriations bill. Administration is the final one. Subdivision 6, that's the smallest, with about $1.8 million. And actually, that's contracts management. That's the budget for the council and the council staff of 4. It is the technical evaluation panel, et cetera. So you actually get some auditing in the field on the ground. And Madam Chair, with that, if it's okay with you, I'll turn it over to Mr. Pavelko to go through the 2 inside.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members. My name is Joe Pavelko. I'm the Assistant Director with the Lessard-Sams Outdoor Heritage Council. Happy Valentine's Day. In the Lessard office, we work on personal growth, so I want to publicly announce that today when I woke up, I knew it was Valentine's Day, and it was not a surprise. If you look in the middle of your handout, you'll see a bunch of graphs with the state of Minnesota on it. If you look at the state of Minnesota, you can see it's broken down into 5 ecological sections. That's how we track the spending and where the projects are located. There's the northern forest, the forest-prairie transition, the prairie, the metropolitan urbanizing area, and southeast forest. If you look on the left page is broken out by acres. The first graph there shows that approximately 82% of all of the acres that are going to be accomplished in this bill are enhanced acres. So that's all over the state. That could be forest acres enhanced, prairie acres, wetlands. It also talks about protect and fee with PILT and protect and fee without PILT. Protect and fee with PILT are properties going to the DNR that have PILT obligations, and that's a total of 4,748 acres. There's 2,015 acres of properties that will be acquired that will not go to the DNR. They do not have PILT obligations. And then also, in addition to buying property in fee, a lot of partners protect property in easement. So you're buying a portion of the rights of that property, and that's 7,426 acres. So this year, the total fee title acquisition in the bill is 6,763 acres, which is a little bit less than what's normally in our bills. If you look at the graph below that, you can just see the distribution of acres by ecological section. The most acres are in prairie, and you can see the most of the acres done in the prairie will be enhanced acres. Down below, a further breakdown of wetlands, prairies, forests, and habitats. And that's, again, throughout the entire state. There could be forests in southwest, there could be forests in southeast part of Minnesota, and that's just a breakdown of where those acres are located. If you look on the right side of the handout, it's under output of funding. This is where it gets a little bit more interesting. This is the actual cost to do the work. As you can see, most of the cost, 31%, or majority of the cost, is for protected fee with PILT, and that's because you're acquiring lands, which obviously costs a lot of money. And the average cost per acre there is $10,000 an acre. The restore average cost per acre is $2,500. Protected fee without PILT is $5,800. Protect in easement is $4,800, and the average cost per acre to do enhancement is $414 an acre. So as you can see, restore usually requires a lot of work, heavy machinery, which is why it's approximately 5 times more expensive than enhance. Enhance is somebody oftentimes just sitting on a tractor and doing some work, or doing, could be prescribed fires, something that doesn't cost a lot of money, but you get a lot of acres for it. Distribution of funds by ecological section graph. Again, just showing that percentage breakdown. Again, prairie has the most investment, but it also has the highest opportunity, because if you look at northern forests in Minnesota, there's forest there. If you drive southwest Minnesota, there's not much habitat there, so that's why the council has decided to invest a majority of their money in prairie. If you look at resource type, down below there, you'll see that, again, most of the investment is in prairies. You can see a difference in the cost for wetlands. Restore per acre is $4,500 an acre, and to enhance a wetland acre in this bill is $753 an acre. So again, you're talking about when you're restoring, it's a lot of heavy machinery, which is why it costs so much money, and that is basically the same through all wetlands, prairies, forests, and habitats. And so that's just a further breakdown of the bill, where the dollars and the acres land. All of the information for all of the accomplishment plans are online on our website, so if you want to see all the details for each of the appropriations, it's there, and we're here for questions if you have any.
Thank you very much. Yes, and do you have an additional?
Madam Chair, Mark
Yes.
Johnson again. Just a couple of comments at the very end of the bill, pages 26 and 27, the two last pages of the bill. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that subdivision 10 is a carry forward, which allows a little extra time for 4 different past appropriations to spend those funds to get them done. I think we have pretty much tailed out on the effects of COVID, but we have a couple of things here that the council felt needed to be extended at this point. And subdivision, the last one is actually subdivision 20, or actually it's section 3 of Minnesota statute of 2022. There's 97A is the statute that is looking at an amendment to it. And if you'd like, Mr. Stanley can walk you through this after a bit. But the main thing is that there was it was brought to our attention from grants management staff that there was an opportunity to save staff time, also to ensure consistency in the reportability and return of any excess funds to the fund by changing that 60 days to 90 days. It was a little bit problematic just by the way that final reports come in and from how the grants management crew actually reviews final reports and issues final payments for requests. With that, I say issues final payments. This is the entire thing here is a thing where the people has to spend the money, they spend their own funds, and then they ask for reimbursement. So it's a reimbursement-based program. And before that final reimbursement is issued, they have to verify multiple things. So that's another reason for the 90 days instead of the 60. I hope that's clear enough in a nutshell.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I have a quick question that is perhaps very elementary and strange, but I'm wondering what there's reference in the bill and in the materials that you've submitted to the different phases that a project is at. Could you please just explain what that means? If something is at a certain phase, is that the project itself designating certain phases that need to be completed for the project, or is that imposed? I'm just wondering what that is all about.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And let me give you an example, because the very first appropriation in here, which would be on section 2, it starts on line 123, and it goes on from there through the first half of page 2. It's to the Nature Conservancy, or to the Commissioner for an agreement with the Nature Conservancy. This is actually the Prairie Recovery Program Phase 13, and it means that there have been 12 previous appropriations to the Nature Conservancy for work in the Minnesota Prairie Recovery Program that they have, which means it's a geographic area, it's western Minnesota. There are previous phases, and each one of those have a time frame of appropriation availability that they have to utilize those dollars within, or they come back to the fund. In this one, they're doing they're looking at acquiring 400 acres in fee. They're looking at restoring 100 acres of prairie. They're looking at enhancing 18,000 acres of grassland. And that's just in this one appropriation. So within each program and each phase, there are multiple programs that have multiple projects that happen within each. To date, they've actually enhanced over 165,000 acres. So the programs keep adding. One way I've heard it put is that conservation takes time. And there's no real brand new wheel to be discovered in conservation. It's refining our methods, and it's continuing the work in new areas. So at some of these, like rather than, if they were to call it Western Minnesota Prairie Recovery Program to start a new phase, the council says, we know this is the same type of work. We're not worried about the phase. The main thing is the work good, and is the work being done appropriately.
Thank you very much, Mr. Johnson. Members, yes, Senator Green.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a series of questions, but I like your question because that was one of mine that I don't usually get a good answer to, so I'm going to try today. These phases continue on, and I think some of these phases are way over 20. And when it comes to the prairie recovery, what is the goal? And in this book this year, I did see reference to pre-settlement prairie. Is the goal to go back to the pre-settlement prairie lands?
Thank you, Senator. Whomever would like to take that question is invited to answer.
Madam Chair and members, I'll try to answer that. I think there's two ways to answer that. There's a realistic goal, and then there's the pie in the sky goal. I think the goals that are set out in these accomplishment plans are realistic. I think all of the nonprofits, everybody involved in conservation want to see a different Minnesota, whatever that is. It might be different to different people. When I answer that question, I always say that I don't want to have to drive to North Dakota to get a good hunting experience. So I think, it's different to different people, but, there is science that kind of describes, if you do certain things, you're going to get a certain result. So, like with the Prairie Recovery Project, they use the Prairie Plan, and it's really specific in the Prairie Plan of what's spelled out, what you need to do in order for X, Y, and Z to happen. And so I think with that project, they're looking at the Prairie Recovery Plan, and if they meet those goals, that they should have, the prairie chickens should be coming back, should be more healthy, the population genetics should be able to move back and forth, those kind of things. So, it just depends on the species and what part of the state you're looking at.
Thank you, Mr. Pavelko. Senator Green?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think the answer that I heard was yes. So that's good to finally get that answer. I do have a series of other questions, but before I do, I would like to point out that in Minnesota right now, and you talk about the lands, the last report that really came out, and I've never seen an update to it that's substantial yet, was 2011. And at that time, if you take federal and state and the waters, we're at about 29% of the state was publicly owned at that time. So I think we have a lot of public lands, and so to talk about driving all the way to North Dakota to hit public lands is a little unrealistic. So anyway, Madam Chair, I do have one question. Is there anybody from Pheasants Forever here today?
I don't see anyone.
Okay,
Senator.
Madam Chair. Okay, and then maybe I'll just go right to the testifiers. There's quite a few projects in here that go to Pheasants Forever. And in some of these projects, in fact, in all of these projects, there's a substantial amount of money for personnel and contracts. And so a lot of the funds, it would appear that are going to non-government entities and for money that was set aside for the enhancements. And when they're done, they turn this back over to the state. And what I would like to know, and this is something else that I've never gotten an answer to, is what is Pheasants Forever and Ducks Unlimited doing that we're funding them into many, many thousands of dollars per year that the DNR can't do?
Thank you, Senator Green. Would either of our experts like to address that question?
Yes, Madam Chair, Mark Johnson again. I can answer that question. Actually, each one of the programs is quite different. Pheasants Forever does have multiple appropriations. Some they're doing by themselves. Some they are in conjunction with. For example, one they're in. I think it's the fourth one in the bill. The Prairie Chicken Habitat Partnership in the Southern River Valley is in partnership with the Minnesota Prairie Chicken Association. They are also working with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service on a working lands, which is U.S. Fish and Wildlife working easements, where they actually help place fish and wildlife easements on farmlands that are then used for grazing and haying, so the farmers can continue to graze those lands and utilize those lands, but it's more sensitive wetland areas or so on. Or it might even be native prairie, who knows. But in the budgets, every one of these projects has a budget that they put forward, and we have a binder like this, which Representative Green or Senator Green, I'm sorry, and congratulations, by the way. Senator Green has a binder like this as well, and if you would like one, we certainly can get you one. These are, each one of these, of the projects or programs, and the appropriations are in here, and they're about 20-some pages apiece. This is what the council goes through. But there's a distinct budget in each one that lays out what is going to happen, how the money is going to be broken out and spent. Personnel, when we look at a budget, doesn't mean that it's administrative personnel. There may be some administrative there, but that's always listed down below the budget in a separate category, saying this is how many restoration specialists. This is like, I've got one open here. It's the grasslands one, I think is about the last one in the prairie section, subdivision 2. And personnel is 446,000 acres. The appropriation itself is about 2.9 million. 446,000, and that is for, there is a prairie restoration specialist who will be working full-time 3 years on this proposal. There's also 0.09 seasonal laborers that work for 4 years on it, and that's in restorations or enhancements. There's also half a position that works for 4 years, which are techs and specialists out in the field working on this, and then there's contract management, which ends up being 0.02 FTE for about $6,700 for contract management. Contracts, when you see that in the budget, that means that's those contractors that they are hiring to do specific work in the field. And then, of course, there are professional services if they need, some of those as well. So if you have questions on an individual portion of a budget, or we could get you to exactly what the breakdowns are from the budgets too. It's up to you. We're here to help and get whatever answers you want.
Thank you, Mr. Judson. Senator Green, do you have a follow-up?
Yes, I do. And I understand that the Pheasants Forever do have experts, but I'm assuming so do the DNR. And so in my district, what we have a problem with is the non-government entities coming in and applying for and receiving millions of dollars in funding to purchase property. And the enhancements I like, in fact, we'll go through that in a second, but they're purchasing property which is coming off of our tax rolls when we have a lot of property out there already. And if you look at the center of this folder, and you'll see just the difference here in the bottom of the center, the enhancements, 99,000, well, almost 100,000 acres. And the cost in that, if I'm reading it right, is $41,000. But yet the 6,000, or actually close to 7,000 acres that you're buying is about 58, maybe close to $60,000. And this is the kind of stuff that we're talking about. Minnesota has more land than I think that you're ever going to get anybody on in the way of getting people out into the open. And yet I can tell you from personal experience that the state lands are not well managed. There's a lot of weeds in this bill. There's also talks about old growth forest management. I've never seen that. We can go in and harvest wood. And for those who don't know, in Minnesota, if you get a 60-year-old tree in Minnesota, most of them, if they're aspen or some other wood that works good for lumber, after 60 years, they're no good anymore. A lot of times they're falling over. They should be harvested. So the old growth management is not there. But when we're funneling money through the non-government entities, the NGOs, I think that not only are we not using the money to the best of its ability in the way of enhancements, but we're also funding groups that should be funding themselves. And I hope you guys take time to look through this, because I go through this every year. It's kind of a fetish with me, this and the LCCMR, which is coming up next. And some projects are good. I mean, I pick on the ones that I have a problem with, and maybe sometimes I guess I should talk about the good projects. And one of them here was underfunded, and I thought about having a amendment to fix that, and I may still on the House floor, and that's in the Voyageurs National Forest. And that's on page 10 of the bill. And it's they had asked for about another $500,000 in this, which would have cleared, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, another 400 and some acres of invasive cattails. And by underfunding that, I was talking to some of the folks up there, and they believe that by not being able to clear the whole thing out, they may not get ahead of the cattails. And so when I hear that these projects are all vetted, and in many years, the people who vet the projects can't answer the questions that I have, it makes me wonder. Now, I know that we're not going to get through these bills if I keep talking, but I do appreciate you guys answering the questions. I do have many, many more. I will be having amendments on the House floor and try to get them out there as soon as lack of time. I wish that we would have had one committee meeting for outdoor heritage and one for LCCMR, but we'll work with what we got. Thank you.
Senator Herr, would you care, or any of your expert care, to respond to the comments? And then I was also going to see if we had any other testifiers before we.
And Senator Green, I appreciate his detail into, LCCMR and also to this. We certainly need his expertise on these areas too for our checks and balance. And again, congratulations. I think you're on the LCCMR now, right, Emma? So congratulations to that, and we'll look forward to work together.
Senator Hur, are there any other testifiers that you wish to bring in support?
I wanted to call to see Senator Bob Lazar. Do you want to say a few words since you're here?
Keep up the good work.
Yeah, why don't you come over here so we can get you know, okay. All right, here.
I'm too old for this. Tough to get old.
Yes, since you come all the way from, is it International Fall?
No,
Welcome, Senator.
The biggest fear many years ago, when we had the concept to try to start all this, was to how long it would take for the state to get their hands in the cookie jar. And I kept my mouth shut, but I have to think of how many millions of dollars we put into the LaSarde Council and all this other stuff that we've done. I think it's remarkable that this state has done so well in putting the money for what the people voted for at that time. It was a big issue to get this on the ballot, you know, the whole concept, and for people to tax themselves, and we didn't know how it was going to go. And it was the only time in my career in the Senate that I had the Sierra Club, the Arts Council, the Sportsmen, and all the other groups on the same bill. That was the first. So, no, I have nothing more to say. I just wanted to come and listen. I really appreciate the work you're doing, and I really appreciate, as this goes forward, that the money goes for what the people voted for at that particular point in time. So that's about it. So thank you for, I just came to listen today to this. Any questions? That's about it.
Thank you very much, Senator.
And anybody tells you getting old is when you're on the downside of 90, upside 90 and downside of the 3 zeros, don't think this idea it's your golden years. Don't never believe that. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Senator.
Thank you very much.
I learned an adage today from Senator Bob Lazar, and I'm sure most of you who are, you know, longer resident of Minnesota or of this country probably know this adage that a horse knows not to walk on thin ice. So I think we're ready to pass this bill. And Madam Chair, this question? Okay. Should I motion to? Okay, so.
We have a little bit, we have one more comment or a question perhaps, and then the plan, as I understand it as well for this bill, is that it is to be laid over for possible inclusion in the legacy omnibus. So I don't know that we need a vote on it, but we can wrap it up. Okay. Yes, go ahead, Senator.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I feel a little weird sitting on this side of the table for the first time in a long time, but I knew he was going to get out of the chair and come and testify. I knew it. You would have had to tie him down, let's be honest. I think he spoke pretty eloquently. There's a lot of other bills that have committee structures and councils, much like LaSarde Sam's. And I would say that over the last few years, I've learned a great stewardship from, Executive Director Johnson and Assistant Director Pavelka for that part. I was just going through some pictures the other day, and there was a picture of Bob Anderson sitting at the table from 2018. And this was shortly after I was first assigned to the council, and I can remember that this little man came into my office, so I didn't know who it was. And he came and he sat down and he said, "Let me talk to you for a minute," and kind of gave me the what to. And I didn't know because Bill Ingerbretts was on the committee prior to that, but shortly thereafter, and I tell people to this day, I think Bob Lazard was kind of giving me the sniff test and make sure that I could carry on that little bit of stewardship that he had laid out so well, and both on the council, but necessarily in the Senate as well. It's interesting kind of how you meet people throughout your life and you learn how to do things the right way. And, on Thursday night this week, I'm going to go sit down with Jordan Sams and go on a flight. And he speaks pretty highly of his dad, and he speaks pretty highly of the work that you two did together back in 2008. And, I'm just real proud to be on the committee. There is to be honest, I'm a little humbled. I think that Mr. Lessard probably feels somewhat of the same way. I think over the course of the last few years that the bill and the idea has become so successful that we're talking about slowing down purchasing property. We're talking about things that I don't know if you ever even thought about in 2008. We're talking about more of not the restoring and enhancing, but the protecting part of it. And I think that's a pretty good place to be for this council. I think it's a pretty good place for the board and the committee to be as well. So I'm looking forward to many more years of the Outdoor Heritage Council. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator. Okay. Senator Herr, are there any last words that you'd like to say before we lay the bill over?
No, I just lay over, I say the adage, and so if this is tape recorded, you can edit my part and then
Very good.
lay over for possible inclusion. Thank
Very
you, Madam
good.
Chair.
Thank you very much, Senator Herr, and thank you very much, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Pavelko, for your expertise and for your testimony today. This bill will be laid over for possible inclusion in the Legacy Omnibus Bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator McCune, for taking the gavel on my bill, and it's truly a good partnership. I have a happy Valentine's Day. And it's not yet over. We still have a bill here. The Senate, let's see, now the number. Senate 442, Senator Morrison. So whenever you're ready, you may introduce yourself and also your testifier when they're ready to present.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, members, I'm Senator Kelly Morrison, and I'm pleased to present Senate File 442. This is the annual Legislative Citizen Commission on Minnesota Resources, or LCCMR, an Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund bill, and includes funding for 83 environmental and natural resources projects across the state. The projects are the recommendations of the 17-member Joint Commission and were developed in a bipartisan and bicameral way over the last 9 months. We worked hard as a commission this year on our evaluation and selection process and tried some new approaches to ensure we could reach agreement. As a result, we secured more than the needed 12-member supermajority support and offer a bill that includes a diversity of projects ranging from research to environmental education to land protection to creation of local park and trail amenities. In addition to the appropriations, the bill does include some policy provisions that the LCCMR likewise worked together in a bipartisan and bicameral fashion over the summer to develop. This followed a legislative directive to the LCCMR to look into the guidelines for using ENRTF funds to pay for capital construction projects. A subcommittee developed a report and recommendations that were then adopted by a supermajority of the commission. Some of the recommendations included changes to LCCMR's governing statute, which are included in the bill. And Mr. Chair, I neglected to offer my author's A4 amendment before, so I'd like to move that now.
Okay. The author had the A4 amendment, and it's coming to you, or is it in your folder? Okay, so in your package already. So members all in favor for A4 amendment, say aye. Aye. Okay, oppose? Nay, okay. So motion prevail and the amendment is adopted. Okay, go ahead, Senator Morrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
With Senate 5442 as amended.
So now I will turn it over to LCCMR staff, Becca Nash and Mike Campana here today to do a walkthrough of the bill.
Well, welcome, Director Nash. Go ahead, just introduce yourself for the record and go ahead with the presentation.
Thank you,
testify.
Mr. Chair. Again, for the record, I'm Becca Nash. I'm the director of the LCCMR. And thank you for the opportunity to speak on Senate File 442. Since I was here just a couple weeks ago giving an overview, I'll just provide a brief recap on the ENRTF, the LCCMR, and then I'll do the walkthrough of Article 1 of the bill that includes our annual funding recommendations. And then, Mr. Chair, if it's okay with you, we can shift gears, and my colleague Mike Campana will then provide some context and explanation of the policy recommendations that are related to capital projects included in our Article 2. So again, the Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund is a permanent fund in the state treasury that's created by voters through the constitutional amendment to support activities that protect, conserve, preserve, and enhance Minnesota's air, water, land, fish, wildlife, and other natural resources. It's funded with annual proceeds from the Minnesota State Lottery as well as investment income managed by the State Board of Investment. The LCCMR is a 17-member joint commission that's responsible for making recommendations primarily from the Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund, and then for conducting oversight of those approved projects and associated expenditures. LCCMR's recommendations typically result from a multi-stage competitive process, starting with our annual request for proposals. We receive applications from entities all across the state in response. We review proposals, they're evaluated, we have multiple rounds of scoring. Members hear presentations, are able to ask questions of proposers, and then any research projects that are selected undergo additional external scientific peer review. Top proposals are then selected and put into bill form and must be approved by at least 12 of the 17 members to become the LCCMR's recommendations. That bill is then presented to you for your consideration. The amount of funding we had available this year was $79.6 million. We also had about $189,000 from the Great Lakes Protection Account available for recommendation, giving us a total of $79,833,000. The Great Lakes Protection Fund was created in the late 1980s by the Great Lakes states to address the ecological problems of the largest single source of fresh water in the world. The Great Lakes Protection Fund is an endowment, and Minnesota receives an earnings check each year, and funds from that account must be recommended by the LCCMR for projects to protect water quality in the Great Lakes. In response to our 2023 RFP, we received 174 proposals, requesting a total of approximately $164 million. In late August, 83 projects were selected, totaling $79.833 million, and those were selected for recommendation to the legislature. While the projects before you today in Article 1 are the result of this competitive process and were selected by funding by a supermajority of members, the walkthrough and final vote on these projects in bill form by the LCCMR has not yet happened. Unless there are any questions at this point, I'll proceed and go through the Article 1.
Yes, any question from members? Okay, you may proceed, Director Nash.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chair. Subdivisions 3 through 10 in the bill represent the LCCMR priority areas which proposers applied to. And the first of those is the Foundational Natural Resources Data and Information subdivision. This is Subdivision 3 starting on page 2 and includes $8.2 million in appropriations for 19 projects. These are projects that primarily involve the collection, analysis, mapping, and dissemination of foundational data and information needed for conservation planning and decision-making in Minnesota. Subdivision 4 is water resources. This includes $8.3 million of appropriations for 13 projects. And these projects include research and demonstration projects, as well as development of new techniques and technologies to improve the protection of the quality and quantity of our water resources. And you'll see in this subdivision, the Great Lakes Protection Account funding is directed to paragraph E, which is a project on microplastic pollution in Lake Superior. Subdivision 5 is environmental education and includes $3.9 million for 8 projects. And this category includes outdoor experiences, hands-on youth education, and natural resources training. Subdivision 6 is aquatic and terrestrial invasive species and includes $5.1 million for 2 projects. And this category includes research, development, demonstration, and education projects to prevent, reduce, or control invasive species. And the majority of the funds in this category this year are going to the Minnesota Aquatic Invasive Species Research Center at the University of Minnesota, which was established using the Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund funding. Subdivision 7 is air quality, climate change, and renewable energy. This is $3.9 million for 6 projects. This category includes improvements to air quality, climate change mitigation and adaptation, greenhouse gas reductions, renewable energy, and energy efficiencies. Subdivision 8 is methods to protect or restore land, water, and habitat. This is about $16 million for 18 projects. And this category includes innovations in the way we go about protecting and restoring our natural resources. Subdivision 9 is land acquisition, habitat, and recreation. This includes $31 million for 15 projects. And these are efforts to enhance habitat connectivity, benefit water quality, improve access for management, and increase public access for recreation, particularly in areas of the state with limited public land. Subdivision 10 is administrative and emerging issues. This is $3.1 million for 4 appropriations. This includes funding for fiscal management and reimbursements for projects that are going to non-state entities, and those are managed by the Department of Natural Resources. This also includes funding for our emerging issues account, LCCMR administration, and a website that's required by law. Subdivisions 11 through 17 are conditions of funding that typically get included in our bill every year. Subdivision 18 is the carry forward. So these are a few projects that were previously funded that need a little more time to complete their outcomes. Sections 3 and 4 on page 39 and 42 are technical changes to appropriations from last year. One of them is removing a specific number of students, and that's because the project was not funded at the level that that number was based on. And then in one project, we're clarifying that construction of the Mesabi Trail is toward the city of Tower rather than all the way to Tower. That, Mr. Chair, is the appropriations portion of the bill, and so I'd be happy to stand for questions. Otherwise, I would ask to pass the microphone over to my colleague, Mike Campana.
Okay, members, any question to Mr. Nash on this category? Senator Green?
Mr. Chair, if it's going to be faster, I can wait till everybody's done before I ask questions. Or if they'd rather take the questions, I guess it's fine too, but might be better to wait till all the testifiers are done.
Yes, there's another testifier after. I think it should be fast. Yeah, go ahead. Please introduce your name for the record.
Good afternoon, Chair Herr, members of the committee. My name is Mike Campana. I'm a senior project analyst with the LCCMR. I'll be providing an overview of the capital projects section of the bill. As Senator Morrison indicated, this section reflects recommendations made by the LCCMR and would amend the LCCMR governing law, Chapter 116P. To begin with, just to provide some context, in recent years there has been an increasing number of capital projects as well as larger capital projects seeking funding from the Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund. This has raised questions within the Commission regarding if it was receiving sufficient information to make proper recommendations to the legislature on these often more complex projects, and if appropriate conditions were in place to help ensure success of these projects. The LCCMR began to conduct fact-finding in late 2021, early 2022, primarily collecting information on existing conditions and requirements related to capital projects funded with state general obligation bonds or GO bonds. As Senator Morrison indicated, in June 2022, the legislator directed the LCCMR to provide a report and recommendations on this issue. The Commission then formed the subcommittee that Senator Morrison mentioned and held multiple public meetings over the summer of 2022, reviewing the requirements that apply to capital projects funded from other state sources and discussing which of these requirements would improve the LCCMR recommendation and oversight process. The subcommittee voted on whether to include each individual recommendation and unanimously approved the drafting of a report with the recommendations for consideration by the full Commission. The subcommittee's recommendations were adopted later that summer by a supermajority of the full Commission. The recommendations include changes to LCCMR's governing law. They include 3 new requirements, as well as clarifications and references to other requirements already in place and found in other statutes. If you would like, I can go through each of those individual recommendations if it's helpful for the committee.
Let's see. Oh, Mr. Campana, maybe you could hold on because we have one testifier online, and maybe let her testify first, and then we can come back with you two here, and if anyone have question, they can direct them question to you. So let's go to the online testifier. See, Miss Sarah, let's correct me if I'm wrong, CO Chettle. Are you online now? Please speak up and introduce yourself.
Yes, hi. Chair Herr, Vice Chair McEwen, Ranking Member Eichhorn, and members of the committee. My name is Sarah Chiquetto, and I am the Deputy Director of the St. Louis and Lake Counties Regional Railroad Authority. Besides owning and maintaining the Lakefront Line Railroad that runs from Duluth to Two Harbors, this rail authority has also proudly built and now maintains the 156-mile Mesabi Trail that extends from Grand Rapids to Ely. By 2024, we anticipate that the full master plan length of 162 miles will be complete. The Legislative Citizens Commission on Minnesota Resources has been an excellent partner in building this unique and scenic paved trail that winds through 28 communities from the Mississippi River in Itasca County to the boundary waters in St. Louis County. Over the last 25 years, we have built this trail through funding partnerships at the local, state, and federal levels. Building trails is a complicated and lengthy process. We have received significant funding from LCCMR over the years, and those grants have allowed us to leverage millions of dollars in other federal, state, and local grants. Because the LCCMR does not require a match, it gives organizations like ours the flexibility to use the dollars to find other dollars. Over the years, we have been able to match our LCCMR grants over 1-to-1. However, if an LCCMR match requirement had existed over the last 25 years, we would have found ourselves unable to apply in most LCCMR grant cycles because we would not have met that requirement up front. Trail building is a chicken and egg proposition. We have successfully used LCCMR dollars to leverage millions of dollars, and in doing so, have built a destination trail, a gem in our great state, and one of the longest paved trails in North America. A match requirement like the one being proposed in Senate File 442 would have essentially prevented or at least significantly delayed us building the Mesabi Trail. We are not alone. Communities all around us have used these dollars from LCCMR to leverage state bonding, federal trail and recreational dollars, and local funding. This proposed match requirement will inhibit their ability to do so and thus stop future development of trails, trail amenities, campgrounds, and other valuable projects that not only serve the people here in northern Minnesota, but from across the state and nation. Senators, I would very respectfully urge you to scrap the additional capital match requirements in Section 3 of Senate File 442, or at a minimum, reduce it to just 5% or 10%. Please help communities and organizations across Minnesota by making LCCMR more accessible and reject these proposed changes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Yep, Ms. Chachito, thank you for your testimony. Senator Hao-Chow, do you have a question? Senator Hao-Chow?
Thank you, Chair Herr and members. I appreciate the testimony, and after several conversations when the presentation from LCCMR staff came forward to talk about this match requirement, it's something that I was really concerned about. I've heard from RAMs, I've heard from countless communities in my district, and I'm sure throughout Minnesota, who are concerned about the match requirement on these grants. And so With that, I'd like to offer the A1 amendment, which would remove the match requirement for capital projects in LCCMR.
Member, A1 amendment is coming to you. It's been passed out right now. And Senator House has already explained the amendment already. Any discussion on the amendment of Senator House A1? Do you want it further? Senator Morrison, any remark? Or?
Mr. Chair, if there are no questions, I would urge a yes vote on this amendment.
Okay. All right, Senator House, do you, can you move this amendment?
So moved, Chair.
Okay. All right, member, all in favor, please signify saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Okay, motion prevail. A1 amendment is adopted. Okay, Senator Morrison.
Mr. Chair, are there other questions?
Any question from members? Senator Green.
I always have questions. I have like 19 questions, but I'll hold it to 3.
That sounds good there.
I'll just go into the bill. You see on the front on page 3. I think it was page 3. I didn't mark it, but anyway, there's a study about migrating birds, and I'm wondering why we don't have this. I mean, I've seen the studies and the maps of the migrating birds when we dealt not long ago with avian flu, and so is this a new study? Is it something different, or are we being redundant? That's on 3.6.
Director Nash.
Mr. Chair, Senator Green, and welcome to the LCCMR, Senator Green. I look forward to working with you. So this project is addressing the facts that we know from a landmark 2019 study that showed that North American bird populations have declined by nearly 1/3, which is a loss of more than 3 billion birds since 1970. And a review of those declining species reveals that they have one unifying trait, and that is that they are migrating birds. And so to reverse the decline, we need to ensure that these migratory birds have habitat patches that are protected, where they're doing their stopover and refueling as they're on their migratory stopover sites. And this kind of survey has not been done in Minnesota, but it is identified as a critical information gap for conservation activities. So it is not repeating anything that's been done before.
Senator Green, any follow-up?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On page 8, there's nearly $1 million to the Red Board, and it has to do again with monitoring, multi-source monitoring of flood damage reduction and natural resource enhancement. We've been putting money into the Red Board for this very project for as long as I can remember. And I have never really seen a conclusion, just like we talked about in the last bill, just another study or another plan that comes forward that sometimes is made and sometimes is not. And my question is, was this vetted very well? And also, the last I checked, the Red Board has like $24 million in the bank. And we do a lot of funding of them, and I'd like to know if they're being monitored, watched. Can you answer that?
Director Nash.
Mr. Chair and Senator Green, yes, and just to clarify, this funding is for the Red River Watershed Management Board and the Red River Basin Flood Damage Reduction Work Group to do evaluations on the projects that have been done. So just to clarify, I don't know what the other funding is for, but this is not for them to actually do the conservation work, the flood damage reduction work. It is actually to go back and look at approximately 20 different projects to see are we seeing the outcomes that we would expect to after having done that work. So hopefully this will give some answers about is that work worthwhile in achieving the outcomes we're hoping for.
Senator Green?
Well, thanks for that, but this is another thing that bothers me, because we've got a lot of money in here for studies. And I would like to believe that at some point, when we're spending $1 million, and many times more than that on these projects, that this is not built in, that you shouldn't be able to go back. I mean, we have a big state, but it's not so big that you can't go back and check the projects you've done. And so now we're spending another $1 million to go back and do that. And I would like to see a little more vetting in that. There's two other questions, and I promised I'd hold it to three. One has to do with PFAS, and I'm just going to mention that because we're again studying PFAS to $500,000, and we're giving that to the University of Minnesota. But at the same time, we are promoting energy with solar panels and wind turbines that are packed full of PFAS. And in this, there's also a study to put gardens on landfills. And if we're concerned about PFAS, I hope that we look into that into the future. So then my last question is, even though I wrote it down, I probably don't see it here, and I'm not going to dig for it. But in here, there's a money to do a study on putting bee habitat in schoolyards to teach kids about the environment. And I think that is absolutely ridiculous. As the father of someone who is very allergic to bees and had to carry a pen with them, what kind of thinking goes into that?
Director Nash?
Mr. Chair and members, I'm just flipping through the bill to find the project. I think it's Minnesota Community Schoolyards.
It's on page 20, I believe.
Mr. Chair, and I think the idea is that I think bee habitat might be one of the issues that they're looking at, but I think the idea is that many of Minnesota's schoolyards are not designed to perform environmental functions. There's a lot of hardscape that is actually, in some cases, making issues worse regarding stormwater, sort of heat island effects, as well as not serving the students well in terms of providing them a natural environment to recreate in. So I know that you have actually registered concerns with that before, and we actually have shared it with the project team, and they are keeping that in mind with their design.
Okay, Senator Green, and back to Senator Morrison. Do you want to, Senator Wiesenberg?
Thank you, Chair. I guess I just have one question. I'll just ask one question. It's on page 5, mapping the ecology of urban and rural canids. It's about foxes and coyotes. I feel like we probably know this information, unless it's, maybe you could tell me specifically what we're doing with this study. Thank you.
Director Nash.
Mr. Chair and Senator Wiesenberg, this is following up on an initial phase of the study that was looking at urban canids, and the idea is to provide management recommendations to reduce human-wildlife conflict and disease spillover while safely sustaining these wildlife populations in both urban and rural contexts. And I can just tell you that the phase 1 has produced novel results. And as any research project that we fund, these projects also undergo external scientific peer review. So we send it out to people who are experts in some aspect of the study to do anonymous peer review and provide us comments. And so we are evaluating each of these for providing meaningful and useful management information, as well as making sure that it is novel work that they're conducting. So.
All right. No, any discussion or question? If not, I'm gonna again pass to Senator Morrison. But I wanna, I kind of know the answer too, being that I'm also a member of LCCMR. But just want to get a statement from Director Nash. Most of this project are in greater Minnesota, right, in this bill. Am I
Mr.
correct?
Chair, thank you for the question. I would, when we did provide a handout, I think in your packets that show some distribution, geographic distribution information, 80% of the projects are considered having statewide impact. And then 18% of the projects are specifically just in Greater Metro.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And as chair and members.
I mean, sorry, Greater Minnesota, not Greater Metro.
Yeah. And as chair of this committee, I'm eager to get this bill passed so that project can start and people can put people to work and also improve our park and trail, our environment. So thank you, Senator Morrison, for carrying this bill. Will you move this bill forward to the Finance Committee?
Yes, Mr.
As
Chair,
amended.
I move that Senate File 442 as amended to be passed and re-referred to the Committee on Finance.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right, motion prevail. Thank you all for
Thank you, Mr.
sitting
Chair and
through.
members.
Yep, through this committee, we're all on time. So motion, now, no more motion. It's just, as a chair, committee is adjourned.